week, I'm going to suggest an album for Danton to listen to that he's never heard before. And Danton is going to suggest an album for me to listen to that I've never heard. So this is the first time we did it. And Danton suggested a band that I actually introduced him to, that I only have like 1 or 2 of their albums. Spock's Beard, Brief Nocturnes, and Dreamless Sleep was the album I was assigned for this week. And reason why I say, speaking of Kansas, is because
Spock's Beard sounds like so much like Kansas, and I love it.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
I love it.
It felt like Dream Theater in Kansas had a baby on this album, really, for a lot of it. Wow, that's what I gotta say about that album. Wow, it's complex, it's challenging. The opening track, I'll start there. I gotta get this off my chest.
The song that got me into Spock's Beard. That was the first song I heard. And just really quick, I'll let you finish. But so for me, like we did our little progressive rock episode, which we're going to revisit that topic really soon. And we're going to bring in a guest for that, which is going to be fun. But so we mentioned Spock's Beard. And I was like, that was one of those bands I always heard of. I never listened to them. So I just went on Spotify, and the opening track from Brief Nocturnes is the first song that pops up on their Spotify feed. And I heard the first 30 seconds of it and was like, I got it. So I was just going to do like a couple of just whatever songs and then move on. But I was like, no, let me go to that album and just listen to that album in its entirety. And I have since gone through all of their available albums on Spotify. And I plan to do more than just that because they have so much more than that. But as soon as Jeff hit me with a pitch of a suggestion, I was like, if you haven't heard this album by Spock's Beard yet, listen to it right now. And that goes for all of you that are watching. Listen to the whole thing cover to cover, because that opening song punches you in the face, and the rest of the album delivers tremendously.
It starts off with like a beautiful piano. Okay. Before this, my favorite album by Spock's Beard was Day for Night. This is right there. I'll tell you right now. It's right there with it. It starts again, Hiding Out, first track. Starts off with a beautiful piano intro, real soft, and then bam, it nails you with this like real crunchy, heavy guitar riff.
Proggy, just crunchy, heavy, F-sharp guitar thing.
It's great.
It's just I can listen to the first minute of that song on loop and never get tired of it.
The contrast between that beautiful piano and that heavy guitar that just comes in, and that choppy heavy guitar, it was great. And what a powerful chorus.
And then you hear the singer. Oh my God, the vocals in that.
Now that's not the original singer. Again, it's a different singer than that's on Day for Night. Because most of the band's different. I think some of the guys are gone. I know the drummer's different on that. That album, they do a lot of really crazy proggy stuff there. And again, I'll mention, yes, it sounds like Kansas in a lot of parts, like a lot like Kansas.
And it's an easy thing to say, like, this band sounds like that band. And I remember I was telling a friend about that, like, they have a really big, like, modern Kansas vibe. And we were listening to it. I don't know if it was that album or maybe a different one. Could have been Oblivion Particle or one of the other ones, because a lot of the albums on that, I'll probably recommend more Spock's Beard to you later, honestly, but we'll see what happens next week. But we were listening to a couple of songs on it, and he was sitting there on my couch like, wow, you weren't kidding. They really actually sound like Kansas. And I love
they wear that on their sleeve, man. They wear that Kansas.
Because that's something you can't easily just do. You can't just sound like Kansas and do it well, but Spock's Beard absolutely, definitely does.
Now, what surprised me, though, as I'm going through this album, and I listened to it a few times, but what surprised me was Submerged is a really commercial song. Like there's a nice chill vibe to that song, man. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the change. I'm waiting for the progginess to come in.
Yeah, some songs just don't. It doesn't. Flat little. Some of them are even like borderline just trashy rock hits, and it's really interesting that they can do so much different stuff. But there are definitely some skip tracks on each of the albums I've listened to.
Submerge is a great song. I keep going back to that one too. I don't know why that wasn't a radio hit. I don't know. I mean, it's a great song. I even watched the video. The video is kind of weird because they kind of almost look like a modern country band in that video, which is real weird. Look it up. I looked it up today. Just I was on YouTube and stuff, and I came across the official video for Submerged, and I'm like, oh, okay, great, let's see. And they look like it's weird. They look like a modern country band or something.
That's funny.
Real odd. Great song. What a nice chill vibe in that song. And one more thing about this album, the last track. I think it's called Something Strange or something Strange, something like that.
Yeah.
That reminds me is real. This is going to be really obscure. The vocals, the way he's singing, the vocal delivery, real breathy in a lot of parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of the band Anathema. I don't know if you know who they are.
No,
they're a band from the 90s. Just that vocal delivery just reminded me of that, and the guitar sound. But Spock's Beard delivered it a lot better. Anathema does not have a very good vocalist, but just that breathy delivery. Just for some reason, that song reminded me of. I can't remember. They didn't have a hit. They're an underground band, but they're a weird band. They don't really fit into any kind of like genre, I don't think. But that reminded me of that. But the last track, finishing off that album, perfect. That album is really good. I can't wait to go back to it. I would definitely recommend, if people want to get into Spock's Beard, I used to recommend Day for Night. I'll still recommend Day for Night, but I will recommend this one too. If you want to get into Spock's Beard, perfect album to get into, because this really showcases everything they're about, from their killer proggy stuff to their like more like laid back chill stuff that could be heard on like AOR radio, at any time, if radio actually listened to good music. If radio programmers actually
they play some Spock's Beard in some Kansas, and it would be great.
Oh, that would be great. But yeah, thank you. Great suggestion.
I'm glad you liked it. I was going out on a limb thinking, I know he's into some proggy stuff, so let me throw something that really took me aback. Let me give it to him and see what he says. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it. That really makes me happy.
Yeah, those 3 songs were the highlight, I think, because I wanted to kind of break it down. I didn't want to go too much into detail about what I thought about the album track for track or anything like that. But they were the ones, as I listened to it like a third and fourth time. They're the 3 tracks that stood out. The whole album's great, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But those tracks stood out to me. The beginning, the end, and that Submerged, because it was so different. Submerged was such that's probably their single. Well, that was their single probably from the album. If you could call it a single. Great stuff though. Great stuff. And I got to go back and listen to more Spock's Beard now, because again, I had Day for Night, I had Snow. Mm-hmm. And I have another one, I think, somewhere. But yeah, but it's one of those things that just never got a chance to go back to them and get their whole catalog. But I think I'm going to have to. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have myself to go back to Brief Nocturnes, because I did it like 3 or 4 times at this point, and each time I like it more than the last time I listened to it. And
great.
I'm not yet at the point where I even just know all the tracks off the top of my head. So I'm probably going to go through it again tonight. As a matter of fact, I'll probably listen to that one more time to get into it. But the album I was assigned by Mr. Jeff was Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. So for those of you that don't know, it's a concept album, and it's got a little bit of a crazy story to it. And Jeff pitched me a question that he wanted me to keep in the back of my mind while listening to this. The question was, who killed Mary? So I won't get into too much of the story stuff, because I've only kind of briefly. So like I purposefully wanted to. I was like, let me just give it a completely cold listen. Let me just put in headphones. I'll start at the first track, go to the end, straight through, no stops or breaks. I did it on one of my afternoon walks, and I was like, I'm not going to read anything about what the album's about. I'm not going to look at any of the story stuff or any of that. I just want to take it musically at face value. And first impressions, going through like the opening 2 or 3 tracks, it was like, all right, it's cool. It's got really cool guitar riffs. I like the guitar playing a lot. It's really kind of dark, hard rock. I love the overall harmonic language that the guitar player uses in a lot of the riffs. For me, guitars are always my thing. I always listen to those first. But even there were a bunch of parts where like, oh, that was a really nice, tasty drum fill, or oh, that drum groove really slaps, And the first impression of the vocals for me, it was kind of weird, because it was like it sounded to me like a mix of Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden and Geddy Lee from Rush, which anyone who knows me as like a big Maiden fan, and I love Bruce Dickinson. He's one of my favorite singers. Anyone who really knows me knows I really am not a big fan of Rush, and a big reason why is I really don't like Geddy Lee's singing. I really kind of have some issues with it, and that's a topic for a whole other hot take episode that we'll do in the future. But at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about the singing. Like I love it kind of, and I kind of don't like it. And the further along the album I got, the more it grew on me, especially with a lot of the really nice higher harmonized lines where I thought were really, really well done. And that's really hard to sing some notes that are that high and have them still sound really good. And I think this singer just absolutely crushed it. So the further along through the album I got, the more I liked it. And by the time I hit what became my favorite track is right in the middle of the album. It was called Sweet Sister Mary. And all the while, so like there's the whole, like the opening bit, it's called I Remember Now, and there's like a lot of like spoken text, you know, and it's like from the perspective of this guy like waking up in like this catatonic state and like trying to like remember who he is or what happened, or like this kind of like amnesia. And like, of course, with the title like Mindcrime, you know it's going to be like a weird kind of mental psych trip kind of thing. So I was expecting something like that, but I wasn't sure what the context of the story was. So I'm like, all right, it's going to have to do with like memories or, you know, amnesia or something, or, you know, like, you know, maybe being possessed, or like, I don't know what this whole thing is about. And there was a little bit of I like how each song just transitioned into each other. That was kind of cool. I was like, oh, we're on the next track now. Okay, cool. So I'm moving through it at a pretty steady pace. And, you know, it had a little bit of this kind of stream of consciousness kind of vibe to it, where like each song stylistically changes a little bit. And by the time I got to Sweet Sister Mary, there's a lot of like, oh, okay, there's Mary. I got to pay more attention to this one, because this is like, apparently she dies or something. And there's this whole spoken bit in the beginning, you know, you got to kill Sister Mary and you got to kill the priest too. And I'm like, wait, what is this about? Is some kind of like crazy, like human made like assassin monster, you know, kind of like a Bane from Batman kind of thing, of like this like just like made mercenary kind of killer dude? Like, what is this all about? Is this from the perspective of the killer? Is it from the perspective of somebody else? Like, I don't know. And then there's of course all these like really interesting lyrics throughout Sweet Sister Mary that really caught me, of like, you know, like, oh, I can like hear her breath and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, she's definitely gonna die, and I have to kind of like start to pick up what happens with that. So a lot of it was trying to like, I never really pay a lot of attention to the lyrics, especially on a first listen. For me, like if the music doesn't hook me, I don't care what the lyrics are. They could be the most beautiful, brilliant written lyrics, and if the music sucks, I really don't care. And on the contrary, if the music's really good, I don't care if the lyrics are trash. I'll still love it and dig into it. And that's another topic for another day. But for me, like lyrics what's that?
So that won't be a bad topic. I like that idea.
Yeah, so that could be something we can maybe add. But like for me, like it's musically, it's got to get my interest. It has to have interesting writing. It has to have a lot of changing, because I'm like beyond ADHD. Like if it's not changing meters or changing keys or doing like, the whole album held my attention pretty well, because stylistically it goes through enough change from track to track that it kept me going. It was like, I'm curious to see what's next, because I really didn't know what to expect. And especially with Sweet Sister Mary, musically it really took me away, because there's all these like big moments like with choir singing, and there's like Latin text, and like it was interesting that the lyrics were kind of catching my attention, because that never happens, you know. And then from there on, there's a handful of other songs before we get to the kind of finale. The closing track is called Eyes of a Stranger, and between Sweet Sister Mary and all the way up to Eyes of a Stranger, pretty much each song in a row had like catchier and catchier choruses. I remember Breaking the Silence really caught me, of like, wow, that is a really pretty melody. And then I Don't Believe in Love was a really pretty melody. And then Eyes of a Stranger had a really, really cool chorus in it too. And it's this, and like that was another moment where the lyrics caught me, of like looking in the mirror, but not recognizing who I see, and that whole kind of thing. And it's like, is this still the killer guy talking? Whatever. I don't know. So I listened through it all, and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this. So then after hearing it all for the first time, then I went on Wiki and kind of Googled up and looked, you know, like, what is this whole thing about? And right, it's about the story of a heroin addict, and, you know, kind of waking up after this whole story and chain of events unfolds, and not remembering all of what happened. And we don't even really get a clear definition of who the killer was for Mary, because at this point he's really just crazy drugged up. And from a first listen, and from what little reading I did on what the album's about, my guess is that the protagonist is the killer. The protagonist is the guy that killed Mary, and he just doesn't remember it because he was out of his mind on heroin when it happened. But it's one of those things, it's so purposefully vaguely written that you can interpret it a lot of different ways. You know, can you say like, you know, what was it, like the organized religion that was responsible for her death? Or was it the guy who killed her? Or did she kill herself? I think there's one theory that she committed suicide, I think, is one of the things. I don't know. Jeff, you could probably clear this up when I'm done. But Yeah, it was really interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to giving it another listen. Now that I know some of the context of what the story's about, now I'll probably like look at the wiki page while I'm listening to each track. Now that I've taken it for face value and kind of accepted it, now it's like, all right, now I can dig in and get a little more into the story thing and see what sort of things I can cover on a second listen. It's really interesting, and it's not super progressive. I was expecting it to be a little more progressive as far as, you know, more of in a musical sense of, you know, changing meters and stuff like that. It's not really super progressive. It's kind of straightforward, like really good 80s rock, which I liked. It's definitely something to be said about, you know, the story really catching me on the first listen, because that very rarely happens. You know, there are even, you know, there are so many Iron Maiden songs that I am head over heels for, and I don't even know what the heck they're about, you know, because the guitar playing gets me, the instrumental bits get me, Bruce's vocals get me. I don't even know what the lyrics are half the time, but the ones that I do know I love, but the ones that I don't know, I'm like, I love this just for what it is musically. And that's enough to satiate what I listen to music for, is for, you know, all that stuff, all the notes and scales and chords and harmonies. And, you know, that's the stuff that really gets me going. So yeah, I liked it. And I'm definitely looking forward to repeat listens and kind of see what happens with this crazy story. And apparently there's a second one. There's an Operation Mindcrime 2.
That's not as good. That's nowhere near.
Well, I'm going to check it out just because I'm curious, and I really like the first one. So, I mean, if I'm disappointed, I'll let you know, but I'm not sure I'll get to it really anytime soon. But I'm going to definitely listen to this one again because I liked it. It was cool. So maybe you can clear some stuff up for me, Jeff. You know, maybe you can tell me a little more about what it's about, or, you know, what you could expect for a first-time listen.
Well, Operation Mindcrime is, to me, and most fans of Queensryche, is their pinnacle album. That's their best. They're at the top. To me, there's, I'd say, 3 great Queensryche albums: Rage for Order, which was one before Operation Mindcrime, and Empire, which is the one after Operation Mindcrime. But Operation Mindcrime is the best, I think. And you were mentioning lyrically, you know, I'm just assuming you didn't sit down with the lyric sheet and read it.
No.
Okay, I did. I mean, when I was younger, I did that. Like, that was like, again, in the basement with the lyric sheet, listening to it on headphones and getting all this. And when I revisited it not too long ago, I was listening to, I think it was the first 3 songs, Revolution Calling and Operation Mindcrime. They could be written now. Lyrically, they could be written now, because it's all about corruption in the government. That's what a lot of that starts off with. He has a goofy name, but his name is Dr. X, and he's the guy who wants to bring on this revolution, this change. And part of that is hiring this drug addict, this Nicky, to start assassinating church leaders, leaders of organized religion, government officials, stuff like that. He's the assassin for hire, and he gets wrapped up with Sister Mary and the priest. And Sister Mary was a hooker. She's kind of not like a nun. She's
nun, right?
Yeah, you know. And so he gets hooked up. And that's where the love triangle comes in. And, you know, the priest is, you know, she's paying her rent to the priest in certain ways.
Okay. that part I totally missed. I didn't catch that the first time through.
Yeah, there's a when you read the lyrics, there's mention of the priest pretty much hooking up with her every night.
Okay.
When he needs to. And so the story gets a little convoluted, you know, because it is a concept album. It's like open to it's open to interpretation. But basically that's the gist of the story, is like, you know, they want to hire this guy to kill these people. And when he hears when the phone rings and he picks it up and he hears the words Mindcrime, that's kind of like that triggers him. So there's a little sci-fi element to it, kind of buried in the lyrics and the subtext.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, as dark as it is, it's cool. It's really cool.
It's good. And like I said, a lot of the lyrics and stuff, and a lot of the topics could be written about today. Nothing has changed about the corruption, you know, and stuff like that. That's what I really liked about it. Like, revisiting it, to me, okay, production wise, yeah, it sounds like an album from the late 80s, but
which for anyone who's a fan of that genre will like it, like I did.
It's still a greatly produced album. I mean,
a little off-putting, but you can still probably get past that for what it is musically and
yeah. I mean, it's not the production's nice. It's good. It's just it's an 80s sounding production because it's what 88 maybe 89. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's 88. I remember looking that up.
Yeah,
don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
Musically, lyrically, and you talk about his vocals. Jeff Tate is the vocalist. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, okay, he's like a Dickinson type vocalist, which he is. You know, he sings with crazy vibrato and stuff. He's a very skilled vocalist. It's another band that changed their vocalist. He's not with the band anymore. Hasn't been with the band in a while. And they've released some really good stuff with a new singer called, his name is Todd Latore, I believe his name is. He sounds just like Jeff Tate.
Oh, okay.
They sound the same. But yeah, they did, I think, 3 albums with him. They're good. They're heavier. They're more like Operation Mindcrime than with Queensryche stuff was after Empire.
And
Mindcrime was pretty heavy.
Riffs really grabbed me. I was like, oh, that's a cool riff. It wasn't anything overly complicated, but it was like, oh yeah, I can enjoy this. It's
good. And they have that Iron Maiden type vibe with the double harmonies. They do a lot with the
frequently enough that you could get some Maiden vibes, which I enjoyed it. So
that was one of the biggest influences when they started was Iron Maiden. They did an EP. They did The Warning. Those 2 are pretty good. Same lineup as Operation Mindcrime. Then, like I said, Rage for Order, Operation Mindcrime. But if you do want to check out anything else by Queensryche, I would just say Rage for Order and Empire are the other 2. After that, it's kind of it's hit and miss.
I'm gonna write them down. I'll add them to my list.
Yeah, Empire's a little bit more commercial. That's Silent City's on that one. I'm sure you know that song. You know, if they know them from Silent City, their ballad, they don't know Operation Mindcrime. They don't know really Sweet Sister Mary.
That's such really great content. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
like they're known for Silent City. They're known for real soft ballady stuff. So, but there you go. And I guess again, I love the Spock's beard, so thank you for that.